Previously in the cartoon Multiverse Saga, our heroes found themselves fighting an army of robotic clones, copies of themselves. But the real question is, why? Why did the villains go through all this trouble? Well, today we're breaking down the latest issue, and trust me, the stakes just got way higher. Up in the villain's command center, Aku watches with amusement, still convinced that his robotic army will eventually overpower the heroes. But Vilgax? He isn't so sure. He points out a major flaw. The robots might copy the heroes' abilities, but they lack the skill and experience to use them properly. He even calls out the Ben robot specifically, noting that they aren't fast enough to match the real Ben, who keeps outmaneuvering them mid-transformation. Aku, however, isn't worried. In fact, he expects this. That's exactly why the heroes were brought here in the first place. Meanwhile, Vilgax turns to Mandark and tells him to pay close attention. Soon, the villains will unleash their real secret weapon, and when they do, the heroes won't have a choice but to obey. On the battlefield, Jack finds it deeply unsettling to be cutting himself in half, literally. But Ben, he's having fun with it. As feedback, he blasts away an astrodactyl robot, treating it like a game. Dexter, always confident, boasts that no machine could ever replicate his intelligence. Blossom, ever the strategist, acknowledges that the robots do a decent job copying their powers. Buttercup, however, isn't impressed, dismissing them as cheap knockoffs. Bubbles adds that they're slow, and Jack agrees. Individually, these robots aren't much of a threat. Then Ben figures something out. The robots aren't thinking for themselves. They're just imitating what he does. And just like that, he comes up with a genius plan. He transforms into Pesky Dust, a tiny fairy-like alien. Sure enough, the robots all transform too. But then, Ben quickly shifts into Crash Hopper and stomps on the tiny Pesky Dust robots, crushing them instantly. Blossom admits that it was a clever move, but it only worked for a moment. The robots quickly adapt, turning into Crash Hopper and chaotically bouncing around the battlefield. Dexter, meanwhile, realizes that his jammer is out of power. Thinking fast, he rips the head off a Buttercup robot and starts tinkering with it. Buttercup, watching in confusion, demands to know what he's doing. Dexter simply smirks. He's using the robot head to recharge his jammer. And just like that, he's back in action. Meanwhile, up above, the Eds are still stuck with Mojo JoJo. Ed, being the logical one, recalls something very concerning. They overheard Vilgax talking about blowing up a world. Eddie, skeptical as ever, questions what kind of weapon could even do that. Mojo grimly explains that it's a weapon of mass destruction, one that can shatter entire planets into dust. Before they can process this horrifying revelation, they're interrupted by a loud crash. Mojo rushes to the observation window, and what they see shocks them. The battle below is getting out of control. Ed and Eddie cheer their friends on, but Ed suddenly notices something. A Crash Hopper robot slams into the observation window, causing a massive crack. Mojo's eyes widen. They're not the only ones in danger. Before they can react, another robot crashes into the walkway, triggering a massive explosion that sends everyone scrambling for cover. Back in the fight, Ben decides to stop wasting time with the robots and go after the real problem, the villains themselves. But just as he's about to transform, Blossom urgently warns him to stop. If he transforms, the robots will just copy him. Ben, however, doesn't listen. He transforms into Atomix and unleashes a massive energy blast, wiping out the villains' defenses. But as expected, the Ben robots also turn into Atomix, and suddenly, things take a very bad turn. Dexter, however, gets an idea. He quickly reprograms the robot head he took earlier and tosses it to Jack. Without hesitation, Jack hurls it at the villains. Aku and Vilgax barely dodge before the device explodes. Seeing the destruction unfold, Vilgax finally has enough. He declares that this has to stop. Aku agrees, but instead of being frustrated, he smirks. The fight may not be over, but the next phase of their plan is about to begin. This entire battle? It was just a test. The villains never intended to defeat the heroes here. Instead, they were gathering data, and now that they have it, the real plan begins. Aku reveals their ultimate scheme. They're going to upload the heroes' minds into their robotic copies. Their personalities will remain intact, but their morals completely erased. Mandark explains further. Once this process is complete, the heroes' robotic doppelgangers will lead the conquest of their own worlds. To drive the point home, Aku reveals the heroes' true location. They're aboard Robo-World, a hidden satellite in a pocket dimension. And orbiting it? The Death Stare satellite, a world-destroying weapon. To prove its power, Vilgax fires the Death Stare at a nearby moon and obliterates it in seconds. The villains then give the heroes an ultimatum: surrender and become part of their robotic army, or watch as their worlds are destroyed one by one. The heroes are stunned. Blossom knows they can't let the villains destroy any of their worlds. Dexter panics. If his intelligence gets uploaded into a robot, it could be disastrous. Ben, however, refuses to back down. He quickly comes up with a reckless plan: destroy Robo-World and take down the Death Stare before the villains can use it against them. The heroes agree, even if they never make it home. They have to stop this. But then, Bubbles suddenly realizes something. Mojo JoJo is missing. Meanwhile, Mojo is sweating. This is bad. If Vilgax gets his way, his world is next. Ed suggests that Mojo might actually be the key to stopping this. Eddie reminds him, Mojo is a genius. And for once, Mojo actually listens. He realizes that Dexter was right. Robo-World and the Death Stare need time to leave hyperspace. If they can disrupt that process, they might have a chance to win. The issue ends with Mojo coming to a huge realization. If he wants to save his world, he has no choice but to team up with the heroes. That's where we leave off. What happens next? Can the heroes stop the villains? And will Mojo really join them? Let me know your theories in the comments below. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell, so you don't miss the next breakdown.